Welcome to another week. Today we're going to look at the environment. When we think of an early childhood environment, environment's a really broad term and it's many things. The environment is a safe place where children are, protected from the elements and are easily, seen and kept safe and supervised. It's where important activities of the day take place, like playing and eating, where they sleep, washing hands, maybe going to the bathroom. But beyond the basics, an environment really should support a program's philosophy. And if we think back to our early weeks where we looked at theory and the different theorists and their thoughts around the environment, we're going to reflect on those specifically today and think about how those theories and those philosophies are going to guide the decisions that impact our environments. So today I'm going to show you a lot of pictures, and I'm going to ask this to be a little bit more interactive than previous PowerPoints. If you've got a piece of paper, I'd like you to pull it out because I'm going to have you jot down some notes as we look at some different pictures, and I want you to consider kind of the feelings that these pictures evoke in you, how they make you feel, whether you'd be interested in an environment like the one shown, etc. So if you were hired as a new preschool teacher, what do you think that you would need to get ready for those students to come? So answer that question. Don't just think in terms of the physical environment. Think a little bit larger. Take a minute or two to do that. You can pause me while you write. So let's look at how the classroom environment and setup impacts these different things. Behaviors, interactions, child and teacher satisfaction, parent perception of the program, and relationships. And then let's kind of go back as well and look at some of those theories that we talked about in the first few weeks of class. If our program, for example, was centered in a Montessori philosophy, we would want to have a well-designed classroom, maybe with some low shelves, some specific learning areas and places for the children to work and learn independently. Contrasted with maybe Vygotsky, who valued social, so the blending of social and cultural learning. And so we might want to make sure that the tables, the furniture that we have set up encourage that type of interaction between children with one another. We're going to now look at some pictures, and as we look at these pictures, I want you to consider how these pictures might impact the behavior that we see in our side of our classroom, the interactions, again, that child and teacher satisfaction, a parent's perception of what the program is all about, and then relationships. So here's your first picture. Just write down a couple of things that you notice about the environment. I'm going to keep moving through the pictures, and I won't build in the pauses here, so I'm going to move through them, but feel free to pause it and write down your notes and then start that PowerPoint back up and go through the pictures with me. Here's the next picture. The next picture. I am really curious to know what you jotted down on your paper as it relates to those different pictures that you just saw. I hope that as you were looking at the pictures that you considered those natural elements, that you considered the light, that you looked at how materials were organized, the colors. In some of the pictures you probably saw brightly colored furniture versus natural colored materials. How did that make you feel? If we again go back to those early theorists, we know that they all definitely advocated for environments that were beautiful, that were organized, and that acted kind of as this additional teacher, that the environment really had a profound impact on the education of our children. So what makes a learning environment safe? That's another really important piece of an environment. We want to make sure that we have safe supervision, that we have the ability to see all areas of the classroom so that we can keep an eye on all the students. We again want organized areas. You've probably been in classrooms where you see different learning areas, centers. Maybe there's a dramatic play area. Maybe there's a block area, sand and water activities, manipulatives, art areas, reading corners. the space hopefully arranged in a way that children can, have areas where they can make noise and play, while other children, have the ability to also read and be able to kind of have a quiet area as well. So looking at all the needs of the children and making sure that there are those different areas that meet the diverse needs of our students. So how can we as teachers create effective learning environments for our students? There's a lot of different components to an effective environment. One is that we need to make sure that young children are stimulated through our environments, that there are multiple sources of stimulation that enhance physical, cognitive, and emotional and social skills. We want to make sure that we have places for developmentally appropriate activities. We know that children learn best through hands-on exploration, that children are physical beings, and that physical involvement is an important piece of their education and their growth. As I mentioned earlier, children are physical beings and they need lots of opportunities for those concrete hands-on activities. They need to be able to play in water, make mud pies, make things of wood, putting a doll to bed. They need just lots of opportunities to practice and integrate new experiences into what they already know to be true of the world. And that happens as they involve themselves in dramatic play and drawing, maybe taking pictures, using language, building with blocks, things of that nature. I love this quote by Patricia Tarr. She says, "Work that follows formulatic schemas such as prescriptive worksheets or the St. Patrick's Day mobiles hanging from the ceiling stifles the true capabilities of young children and consequently silences imagination and creativity." And I liked this quote because it kind of took me back to one of the earlier pictures that you probably saw, and I'm going to scroll back to that. When you look at this picture, and it's got specifically the one that has the clovers on it, does that look like a rich opportunity for children to share their skills and talents? Does it look like it's creative art where they've gotten to choose the color paints and the materials and the mediums that they wanted to use? It's really important that we refrain from what we call product art that's just maybe looks nice on a bulletin board, but lacks that real creative expression that children crave and really need, that fosters creativity. Now let's look at some pictures of outdoor learning environments. I want you to add some notes to that list that you had earlier with the indoor and see the things that stand out to you. Whether it's an indoor environment or an outdoor environment, I think a really important point that I want to make is that the environment should reflect the importance of each child by including examples of their work, whether that's work in progress or finished products. They should see themselves evidenced in the classroom, and that can be indoors or outdoors. They need to see their family in the center. If you were at our lab school, you'd see family books that are up all throughout the classroom and pictures of families that are on the bookshelf so that the children can see that their families are valued and a part of the program. The entire center should reflect diversity throughout the world, and race, ethnicity, languages, art, gender roles, religions, shelter, work. We want children to be exposed to a rich diversity of the entire world. And so I think it's important that we do that intentionally through the books that we choose, the dolls that we pick, parent boards, announcements, activity books, puzzles, all these types of things that are in our environment impact how the children see their world. And so it's so critical that we are intentional in the selecting of those materials.